It's Tuesday, June 17th, and this is IT SPARC Cast CVE of the Week, where we pick a common vulnerability and exposure entry that you need to know about and how to mitigate ASAP. But as per the trend for the last few weeks, we're not actually talking about a specific CVE. We're talking about a area of security that you need to know about. And today we're talking about a report that was just released by Apple on which government entities are making requests of data from them. Lou, do you want to take this?
Absolutely. I think the thing with Apple is really useful because they've shown that they're willing to fight for their users' privacy. And you can use them as sort of a trend line for how the state probing the security posture is actually going. So essentially what Apple tracks in their transparency report, and this one isn't the very latest data. I think this is like Q2 of 24. Yeah. The latest data we have, I think it would be very interesting to see what the trend line is going to look like, because we've seen a lot of social unrest, both all over the world. According to, we had the U.S. Election, we had the trade challenges, we've had a bunch of incidents pop up in Europe. So I would actually really, my take on this is that this is the light version of the report. The next one is going to be a bear. But what's interesting is what Apple has found is that China, with a population of 1.4 billion, made about 1,200 device requests. And financial identifier requests were about 465, 398 account requests, and one emergency request in the reporting period. Now, John and I were talking about this just a second ago, and it's like, for us, Apple isn't as huge a player in China as other things. But it's interesting to see that we see any requests, right? Because it's China. They don't mess around. They just come and take the data. So it's really interesting to see that we're getting data out. In the United States, where we've got 340 million people running around, we've had about 12,000 device requests and 1,300 financially identified requests, 398 account requests, 12,000 account requests, 793 emergency requests. So that seems to be about on par with normal background activity from what we've seen. But what's concerning, and absolutely, and what they're tracking is device requests, financial identifiers, accounts, account preservation, whether somebody wants you to freeze that account and give them the data, restriction or deletion, push tokens, emergencies, U.S. national emergency versus private party, digital content provider requests, and app removal. So this is all the stuff that Apple's looking at. The basic outcome of this report is the UK, which has a population of only 68 million, had 2,900 device requests. Okay, that seems to be in scale with the US. 138 financial requests, once again, not too bad. 2,500 account requests, not too bad. 726 emergency requests.
So the UK had a similar number of emergency requests as the US, with a 20th of the population.
Yeah.
Or 20% of the population.
20% of the population. So the net of this report is, once again, we've talked about this before, do not let your data rest in the UK.
Yeah, and we have talked about that before, and there was a battle going back and forth between Apple and the UK as far as encrypted iCloud data, and that got pretty nasty. We started learning some things about the ways that the UK requests data, and it's pretty concerning. So I would have to agree with that you got to protect your data. You got to keep it outside of the UK if possible.
And that was absolutely the big thrust of this report. And the thing to keep your eye on is watch where we do have some level of transparency. It is the canary.
Yeah.
It is the canary that you should keep an eye on. It's good that Apple is providing this information. But even as we've said, this is older data. And I expect, given the world events that have happened since the middle of last year, that things are actually far more crazy. And that's one of the reasons we're not seeing the data.
Yeah. Well, so when we see the next report come out, we'll do another episode like this, and we'll share that data with you. And again, those numbers will be very interesting.
So once again, own your encryption keys, own your storage. Make sure that you know if somebody's trying to get into your stuff, because we know state actors are getting into your stuff.
Absolutely. And that is going to cover this episode. We couldn't do this podcast without listeners like you. We would love to hear what you think. Do you have another topic you want us to cover? Do you think that we're overblowing the whole thing about the UK?
Could be.
Is there something else that we should be concerned about? Send email to feedback@itsparkcast.com or hit us up on X @ITSparkcast. If you're on YouTube, you can leave a comment down below. We do read every single piece of feedback and comments that we get, and we respond to most. If it's entertaining and insightful, we'll read it out on our Friday news episodes, so you might even hear yourself mentioned there. Be sure to hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss a single episode going forward. And with that, we're going to turn you back to your day. From the world of enterprise IT, take care.
Stay safe out there.